Good morning, class. So I looked over your homework from last night and you guys did really well with fractions. So today we're going to talk about decimals. Decimals are pretty similar to fractions. And one thing that we're going to need to know when dealing with decimals is how to round them to a place value. So let's review place value really quick before we go into rounding. If I have 9.025, what place value is my 2? Abby? 100. Good. If I have 1.7039, what place value is my 7? Nancy?
Tenths.
Good. If I have 3.024, what place value is my 4? Abby?
Thousand.
Good. Okay, you guys have got that. So, ready to move on. Now, when we're dealing with decimals, it's easier to round them because let's say you have a number that's 3 point and there's like 20 numbers after the decimal. That's kind of intimidating and confusing to look at, right? So if we can round it down, we can get it to 3 point, maybe say 2 numbers after the decimal. That's a lot easier, and that makes it a lot easier if you have to add something in your head, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about rounding. So there are different kinds of rounding. So today we're going to talk about rounding up, rounding down, rounding to the nearest, and we're also going to review rounding to a whole number. Okay, so let's backtrack and remember our rules for rounding 1 through 4. If it's 1 through 4, you round
Down.
Good. 5 through 9, you round up. Good job. Okay, so if I want to round 4.567 to the nearest whole, what would I round it to? Nearest whole number, excuse me. What would I round it to, Abby?
5.
Okay, good. Because since we have a 5 in our tenths place, or our number directly after the decimal, directly to the right of the decimal, we're going to round our 4 up to 5. Okay, so let's say we want to round 3.024 to the nearest whole number. Can anybody round that to the nearest whole number?
3.
Very good, Nancy. We're going to look at our number, which is directly to the right of the decimal. Since it's a 2, we're going to round down. So we're going to keep our 3. Good job. Okay, you guys definitely have that. So now we're going to talk about rounding up. So let's say I want to round up. We're going to use 4.587. And I'm going to round up to the next hundredth. I'm going to start by looking at my hundredth place. And in my hundredth place, what number do I have?
8.
Good, I have an 8. So, what number comes after 8?
9.
Good, so my next hundredth, if I'm rounding up, is going to be 9. So we're going to make this number 4.59. Okay, so if I want to round 2.9071 to the next thousandth, Abby, what number is in the thousandth place?
7.
Good. Okay, so what is our next thousandth?
8.
Good. So our next thousandth is 8, so we're going to round it to 2.908. Good job. Okay, so let's round 6.239 to the next hundredth. So we're going to look and see that since we have a 3 in our hundredth place, and we know that 4 comes after 3, so our next highest hundredth is going to be 4. We're going to round to 6.24. Everybody understand that? Good job. Okay, now we're going to talk about rounding down. This can be kind of tricky, so I'm going to make sure I go over it slow so you understand it. It's a lot similar to rounding up, but instead of rounding up to the next place value, we're going to round down to the preceding place value. Does anybody know what preceding means?
Comes before.
Good. It means it comes before. So, let's round 8 8.968 down to the preceding hundredth? Nancy, can you answer this? Let me explain it first. Okay, so 8.968. Do you want to guess?
6.
Good. Okay, 6. What we're going to do is, since we're rounding down to the preceding, we're going to look at our hundredth place, which has a 6 in it. And since we have a number in our thousandth place, which is 8, we know that we've exceeded our 6/10ths. So our preceding number is going to be 6. So 8.96. Is that kind of confusing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Since we have a 6 and a hundredth, and our number after is 8, let's look at it as 68. So if we're counting by tens, we count up 10, 20, 30, and so on. If we get to 68, what tenth comes before 68?
60.
60. Good. So let's pretend that we have an imaginary 0 here. So do you see how our 68 went down to 60?
Okay.
That makes sense? Okay, good. Let's try another one. Let's round 4.9025. We're going to round down to the nearest, or we're going to round down to the preceding thousand. Okay, so let's look at our thousand. We have a 2. So our number after it is a 5. So let's break this up and see that we have 25. If we're counting by tens, what tenth comes before 25?
20.
20, good. So we're going to round to 4.902. We're going to pretend we have an imaginary 0. So our 25 went down to 20. So we have 4.902. Good job. Okay, now we're going to talk about rounding to the nearest. Okay, this is probably going to be the easiest. I think this is the easiest. So we're going to think for rounding. We're going to think about our rules. When we're rounding, our rules for rounding to a whole number. For rounding to a whole number, we look to the number in the place value next to the number that we're rounding to. 1 to 4, we're going to round down. 5 to 9, we're going to round up. So let's say we want to round 8.9287 to the nearest thousand. We're going to apply our original rules, and we're going to round to this thousandth. So I'm going to underline my thousandth and circle my place value that is next to my thousandth, and it's a 7. So since it's a 7, are we going to round up or down?
Up.
Good. So we're going to round to 8.929. Good job. All right, let's try one more. Nancy, can you round 4.374 to the nearest hundredth?
Okay. 7's in the hundredths place. 4 tells us to go down. 4.37.
Good job. Since we have a 7 in our hundredth place and our number next to it